Hi, my name is Constable Brand. Apologies for any technical difficulties we had here. Hopefully you can see us now on LinkedIn. Welcome to our EEA Ask an Expert. Today we're talking about wastewater and sewage treatment and how we get to zero pollution. Joining me today is Caroline Whalley, our expert, and we of course released a report on this issue a few weeks ago. You can find the link on our thing. We'll have that below in the comment section. And if you have any questions or comments for our expert, please don't hesitate to put them in the comment section. Caroline, let me start again. Hopefully for the third time this works. What is the difference between sewage and wastewater?
So sewage is the mixture that comes out of our houses. So down the pipes in our houses, you can think about toilets, sinks, laundry, washing machines, those sorts of things. That's what sewage is. That those sort of liquid waste and solid waste out the toilet. Then when that goes out into the combined sewer out in the street, that can then get mixed in with rainwater runoff from the streets, road runoff, and maybe industrial outputs where they're allowed to go to the sewer, or maybe light industry like garages or something like that, where they've got what car washes going into the sewer. And that will be urban wastewater, and that's taken down to the urban wastewater treatment plant in most of Europe for most citizens. But some people aren't connected to the sewer, and then it's different.
Right. I mean, this is quite a vital aspect of our modern day lives, having wastewater treatment plants.
Can I just interrupt?
Yeah.
It's actually critical.
Yeah.
This is critical for public health and environmental protection. Wastewater treatment is a sort of overlooked aspect of our daily life, but it's absolutely essential.
That's why I think it's quite relevant and important that we cover this aspect here today. We released this report. What can you tell us briefly what it's about?
It's really trying to take a step on from what we've been thinking about urban wastewater treatment. When that was set up, there was a directive set up in 1991, and the real focus was on preventing pollution and protecting human health, and it was focusing on eutrophication. And it's really about making sure there was treatment facilities in place to treat the sewage to a standard extent. When I was a child, you could see untreated sewage going out into the rivers and lakes, and seas. I mean, they're not all over Europe, but there are places like that. Yeah. There were places, and it was really to stop that in any big scale. So that's what it was back in the early 90s. It's quite a long time since then. We know quite a lot more about the environment now, and things like climate change and more low concentration pollutants. We know a lot more about. So this is the report. Then is based at thinking about that in the current context.
Great. I see from our colleagues that we are streaming nicely on both platforms. So if you have any comments or questions for Caroline, please don't hesitate to drop them down. We'll make sure she sees them. You mentioned now that the rules are getting a little bit old, so we need to look forward, especially now with the new ambitions that the EU has and European countries have in reducing pollution. And of course, water waste treatment has a role to play in this. Can you say what that role is?
I think it's not just reducing pollution, because actually wastewater treatment as it is pretty good at doing what it was targeted to do, and also will take out things like some metals and some of the organic pollutants we're worried about. But actually, we know more about micropollutants, and so there's quite a lot of concern about micropollutants, whether that's pharmaceuticals, whether it's more industrial chemicals, whether there's all sorts of things that you can imagine go down into the sewers. So there's that sort of pollution aspect, but there's also thinking a bit more broadly, because there's also pollutants from greenhouse gases. So we've got biogas, we've got NOx, nitrous oxides that can be released during treatment, and there's also thinking even more broadly about the greenhouse gases embedded in infrastructure, because typically urban wastewater treatment has required quite a lot of concrete and steel. If you think about sewage networks, if you've got to build a sewer and you're going to be pumping this liquids or relying on gravity to get it down to the treatment plant, there's a lot of embedded greenhouse gases and energy involved here. In fact, wastewater treatment, that's the biggest municipal use of electricity.
Okay.
So it's it's a high energy use, and so it's not, when we think about pollution, what I wanted to do with this report was think about not just chemical pollution or organic pollutants, that kind of thing, but also gaseous pollution, and how we might want to make better use and prevent of the resources we've got, but also prevent pollution in these other areas.
Yeah. What are some of the key challenges now that this sector, the treatment management, is facing?
So, I mean, if you talk to water managers, cost is major.
Yeah.
Okay, so cost is
These
always
are not cheap facilities.
These are not cheap facilities. I think the OECD reckoned it was 230 billion between 2019 to 2030.
Euros.
Yes.
Sorry.
Billions of euros just to maintain what we've got.
Right.
Okay, get up to standard and that's for Europe. Okay, so we're talking billions and billions. So it's very expensive.
A lot of these plants are aging quite considerably.
You're right. Yes. So it's aging. So you've got a continual cycle of renewal and improvement.
Mm-hmm.
So there's costs. There's the greenhouse gases that I've just mentioned. There's climate change. So I think people are getting more aware now about both availability of water. So we want to be able to reuse the water more efficiently, but also more intense rainfall. So if you've got these sewers that are carrying surface water or sort of rainwater down to the sewer, suddenly you've got a lot more of that coming much more intensely, and that has to be managed. Otherwise, what happens? It gets discharged straight to the environment.
Yeah.
And those stormwater overflows, they're called, they can carry quite a lot of pollutants with them.
Yeah.
So that's quite a big challenge.
And what about growing cities as well? As you said, some of these aging, can they still handle the load?
Well, you probably need new facilities, and that's got other sort of challenges in terms of being able to afford it and find the land, maybe. So that's it.
Okay, and so when we talk, why are we talking about this now? As far as making them more efficient, why now?
I think we're all conscious of the Green Deal and what that said about rethinking how we operate our society. And this is a key part of our society. It might be at the end of the pipe, but it's wastewater treatment is a key part of that. But these are in the water legislation happens also to be going through a refit. There's a review by the Commission of this older legislation about whether it's still fit for purpose and doing what it was intended to do. And when they did the review of the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive, it was found that it's doing what it was intended to do in 1991. But look at the context, and the context has really changed. And so actually the ambition to sort of say, how can we make this more circular, how can we make this more sustainable, has really come into the picture.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Before we get to your questions, we already have one. Just want to expand a little bit about, we talk about in the report about making it more efficient. What are we talking about here?
The first thing I'd say is us being more efficient in our water use, because water, just to get drinking water to our taps, that's taken probably pumping, it's taken energy to treat it, and if you think water is heavy stuff, so it takes a lot of energy, and that means cost, but also environmental cost, just to get it to the tap. So then it's gone to a tap, we've used it, and then we discard it down the sink, and then it's going to be, it may or may not be pumped, it's probably certainly drained, depends on the landscape you're living in, but goes to the wastewater treatment plant, and then there's a lot of energy used in treating it. So that using less where we can use less water is the first thing to be more efficient. And then there's thinking about some of the energy that's involved in this. So you can think in wastewater there's actually quite a lot of heat. So some wastewater treatment plants have found ways to recover that wastewater heat energy, and they can use in district heating, which is quite warm stuff. Okay, and then you've also got biogas coming. So if you've got sewage sludge, and you've got the biodegradation of the organic material, you've got biogas, and then some plants are actually able to be energy self-sufficient because they're using the biogas to sustain their energy. So it's not just being efficient; it's also being able to be circular and using this resource to power
extracting what you can reuse.
Yes.
So that's my next question. Circular wise, reusing, recycling, taking the bits you can use again.
That's right, and not let them just be drained off into the atmosphere and then act as local pollutants.
Yeah.
And I think there's the other thing then in terms of circularity is around sewage sludge. So sewage sludge, that's the organic material that's left behind after bacterial breakdown of sewage. So it's the brown stuff, but it's not poo, right? It's broken down material. But the thing is, it's ideal. So it's a nutrient. It's got sort of humus type. It's good for soils. So it'd be great to add to soils as part of circularity. But it can't go to soils in all cases, not least because sometimes it's contaminated with chemicals. And so one of the blocks about putting that to land sometimes is that it's contaminated. So that's one of the problems it's facing.
Yeah. And how would we address that in the future as far as chemicals?
Well, I think the longer term solution actually is to sort of pick up on another part of the Green Deal, which is the chemical strategy for sustainability, and really look to sort of reduce our use of harmful chemicals. I mean, that's quite a big step between here and there, but that's would be the longer term way to be more sustainable about it. I mean, I think you can look at Sweden, and they've got a REFAC accreditation to allow the safe use of sewage sludge, and it really resists. It's got thousands of chemicals on there that may not be used in the catchment where that sludge is going to come from. So there are ways where people are experimenting how to get this clean sewage sludge that has the confidence of the food industry, of consumers, and is achievable and harmless.
It's achievable. Okay, great. Let me get to some questions here. There's a question from Nantia on LinkedIn. I'll probably not be able to attend, but I would like to ask, what is the EU's plans about the pharmaceutical substances and other organic substances that the wastewater treatment plants are not able to remove and are found in wastewater treatment plants' effluents? Is the EU going to implement new directives to make mandatory the use of suitable methods by all wastewater treatment plants to make sure that pharmaceuticals and other organic substances are removed from wastewater before the effluents are released to the environment?
Thanks for the question. So I'd say that there's different aspects to here. So actually wastewater treatment can deal with quite a lot of pollutants to some level. It can reduce the amount in the water phase, okay? And then what things, if it comes out of the water, maybe it's broken down. It might be broken down if it's an organic material, because bugs break things down. But then it might go into the sludge. So first, there are some things that are not taken out very well by wastewater treatment, and that's one group of things, and that's what goes out in the effluent. So that's what I think I want to make a difference here, because actually that effluent, they're pretty good. Much of the treatment will deal with a lot of the pollutants we're currently worried about. What is difficult is when that then goes into the sludge, okay, and when it gets, what happens to it then. And because basically if it's taken out of the liquid, it's going into the sludge, and the sludge really hasn't had enough focus, I think, in terms of this aspect. So those are the two aspects to think about. If it's not in there, where is it? Has it broken down, or has it gone into the sludge? And that's typically metals will go into the sludge, for example. And then if things are very, very low concentration, it's actually quite hard to find them. You know, if they're typically micropollutants are quite low concentration. And so you have to make sure, tracking them through to find them actually in the sludge can be difficult, but we recognise this concern.
It's rather expensive too, the technology.
Yeah, the technology is expensive. So then coming back to the question about what's happening, well, the inquirer may know about the Water Framework Directive and the Environmental Quality Standards Directive, which sets standards for emissions that can go into surface waters and the quality of water. For chemicals. So that's one aspect where the EU is going to be acting. There's a new proposal that's expected, Commission proposal that's expected in the autumn sometime. And then in the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive and the new proposal, I'd also look to that to see what comes out there, because I know micropollutants in wastewater treatment plants were quite a key issue and study for that proposal as part of the new work that's coming forward. So watch this space, I'd say.
Yeah, okay, thanks. We'll jump right to the next question by Christina. What European legislation and other measures are already in place to improve wastewater treatment? How is the EEA working with countries in this area?
Well, that's a good question. So already we have the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive, and that's a routine. It's been routine, I guess, 1991. It's routine. They've just reported again. Countries have just reported. We manage the reporting for the Commission. Countries report their results to us, but that's quite a narrow.
Results meaning the data
not the data. Well, some rather limited data. So I was just going to come to that. So it's very limited under the current directive. It's just COD, so chemical oxygen demand, biological oxygen demand, nitrogen, phosphorus, and suspended solids.
Wow.
So it's just these very good. Remember 1991? There were standards set for these things, and that's what they need to. And it's not so much data, but this is have they met the standards, this sort of thing. 1991. That's it. So that's what the step forward is. And I think, one of the things is that it's one of the reasons it's been quite an effective and enforceable directive, that one, because the Commission do enforce this one. It costs a lot of money when you don't oblige by this directive. Is because it's pretty simple. Countries either have got the treatment in place or they haven't. Okay, and so the Commission are quite conscious of that as being an effective enforcement mechanism. And so going forwards, I think they're looking to find a balance between getting more reporting and being simple and effective to enforce. I think that's that particular directive.
Okay.
In terms of what we're doing, we support the Commission's reporting and help countries report. And we've got country profiles, which I think we might be giving at the end. That will show you what that's a joint product. The Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive country profiles. They'll show you what the reporting is, and that's a joint product between the Commission, ourselves, and we're using the country reporting. And then we're just producing this report, and we work with our INET. Some of the case studies that have come through into the report actually came through from consultant reports that we did with the help of the INET, which is our network of organisations.
Yeah, wow, it's quite a lot of work going on.
Yeah,
behind the scenes. Another question from Denitsa, a senior researcher. Can sewage sludge be used for energy?
Yes.
Just that, yes.
Yeah, so it's used both. I mean, I talked about think about biogas and that sort of thing. There's also, it is incinerated. So some places, because if you, it's about a third goes to that incineration, I think. Anyway, about half across the EU. It's very different between different countries. There's a chart, you'll see it in the report. Very different between different countries about how much goes to land, how much is incinerated, how much maybe goes to landfill. Only a few countries do that because it's not optimal. And then there's incineration, and so sometimes it's burnt because you've got incinerators, and that's the great way to do it because it's energy. It can be co-incinerated with things. And sometimes there's some countries that are looking to go to mono-incineration, and that's not so as efficient, but that means you can get the phosphorus, you can recover the phosphorus out of the sewage sludge. And that's the thing about phosphorus is it's a critical resource. It's actually becoming quite a problem. We've heard about the fertiliser problems in Ukraine and stuff. But before, even in 2014, the EU recognised that there's a problem with phosphorus.
Okay, interesting. Another question from Bertrand. Thank you for this event. Another point is the cost for handling sludge. OECD numbers only look at infrastructure, and all what is related to sludge management is not covered. Does the EEA has a number on this related to this reporting exercise?
Sorry, which reporting exercise?
Sludge management infrastructure. Numbers only look at infrastructure, and all what is related to sludge management is not covered.
No, that's an interesting point, and I don't think we have that.
Okay.
I think it's a sort of the focus, I think, of the urban wastewater has been, like I say, on the water.
Yeah.
Really think about water and anything else is like, okay, well, that will just, the water managers can sort that out. And I think that's one of the things I wanted to bring into. There is a sewage sludge directive, which is really about the quality of sludge going to land. But that bit, bringing that into a circle, that's one of the things I was trying to bring into this report, was saying actually you can't just think about the water. You've got to think about the whole round and what's it look like in a circuit.
Have you also looked into what innovations and other techniques are coming online now across Europe?
I mean, I would say actually the water industry is very innovative and it's got loads of great ideas. I'm not just buying the party line here. It's there's really some great ideas out there, and I think engineers, driven not least by countries or utilities or towns that have said, right, we need net zero. So you'll find that there's Denmark, Scotland, Sweden, and various other groups have said, right, net zero. What do we do to do that? And that's really driving some very innovative approaches to saying how can we drive down energy costs, drive down our carbon costs, and they're coming through these things. And I think in those cases, where's the money coming from? All right, because actually, of course, it's very expensive. These other drivers are allowing presumably some sort of cost recovery to occur because certainly in Denmark the cost recovery is about 100%. So the in terms of innovation, it's hugely innovative, and I think one of the things I wanted to do with the report was actually give voice to that, because some of the things that are being held back by is the market economics. All right, so for instance, phosphorus recovery is possible, but it's not economic. It's not going to compete with mineral fertilizers. It's not competing with, if you've got lots of land, if you've got lots of manure around, you're not going to compete with it like that. So there's less an innovation issue than more an economic viability issue.
I mean, the cost must be tremendous to build these things. As far as are most of these treatment plants, are they all public or?
No, it's a whole range across Europe. There's very different approaches. So sometimes they're owned by municipalities, and people don't even know what they pay for the wastewater treatment because it's just billed up in their, the commune bill, the council tax bill, whatever it is. And then other areas are completely private functions. They're not running a public institution, but they're privately run and financed, and in between as well. We've got different mixtures. So it's quite diverse. And I think it's a great business. I think I think it's quite an exciting area to be in because there's this dynamism, there's all this opportunity, and of course it's a utility. I mean, we have to have it. It's we have to have this stuff. So it's not a question of should we have this or not. No, it's how can we do it better.
And I think you touched on it a bit, but climate proofing and climate change, especially where in water scarce areas, for instance in Spain, Portugal, or Greece. Is there anything new done in that area?
Well, we can see that
I assume you need a lot of water to
you need
clean
some water,
the water.
You need some water to go through, and that's I mean, I think it's more that what do you do with the water, and actually the water reuse. So actually sort of saying, right, we've cleaned this water, we've got this water in, we've cleaned it up, this wastewater, we've cleaned it up, what are we going to do with it? Now, often it's just sent straight back into the environment, and rather than saying, well, why don't we go and, it's got some nutrients in it, even though it's been cleaned up, it's got some nutrients in it, we can go and use it for reuse in agriculture, for example. And actually the areas with the highest wastewater reuse are the southern European countries, because they've got that driver of, we need, this is precious stuff,
And you alluded to earlier on, interesting, you've mentioned it before, is that not everybody in Europe is covered by wastewater treatment. I mean, what is the percentage of...
it's about 11% aren't connected to the sewer. And it depends on how you calculate numbers, but from what we can see from Eurostat figures, it looks like 11% aren't connected to sewer. So typically they'll have a septic tank or a packaged treatment plant, and that needs to operate well. When we did, we looked at the Water Framework Directive second reporting, and we had a look at the pressures on water, and we found that 11% of Europe's surface waters are affected by discharges from non-connected dwellings. So this is like eutrophication. This is nutrients, excess nutrients coming from people's toilets. You think it's like this nice little cabin in the woods, okay?
Obviously, those are not.
It's not so nice. So it's quite interesting. So people, and you can have very effective wastewater treatment packages or small plants, but not everyone's got those.
Okay. We're running out of time, so if you have any more questions or comments, please hurry and get them in now, before our time is up. Caroline, what other work are we going to be doing in this area in the months ahead?
I think we're in this area. We're going to take a little pause. Actually, we've done quite a lot in recent times. I have to say, I think our focus now is going to be looking at the Water Framework Directive reporting. Actually, because that should be coming in. The deadline was last February or March, sorry. And so we're looking forward to those results coming in and being able to understand the data and come forward with that. Obviously, we've got we'll be publishing the outputs of the reporting of the Wastewater Treatment Directive reporting. That should come out in the autumn, so probably about November. And then looking to see how if the Commission needs more support, or be interested to see what comes out in the new proposals, both on the environmental quality standards and urban wastewater treatment, and see what comes in there for information that they might have, requirements that the Commission might have there.
Okay. We've got some last minute comments here from Peter Christensen. Thanks for the event and good work on providing information on wastewater treatment. Hi Peter, good to hear from you. And from Lena, WWTP, that's
Wastewater Treatment Plant.
Thank you. Sorry, acronyms. Are producing biogas. There is purification step to come to biomethane. The energy required is then decreasing the efficiency, so it's not always necessary to do so. Wastewater treatment plants can use the biogas produced on their facility directly. However, with a surplus of production, and if the price to produce biomethane is fair, there is a potential certainly. Bertrand said he was replying to Lena. Okay. Thank you. That is all the time we have for today. Thank you, Caroline, for
you.
shedding some light in this actually very interesting area of work.
to
People
say-
might think it's disgusting or whatever, but
Yeah.
you know what? It's quite necessary.
It's necessary and it's intriguing.
Yes.
It's intriguing.
And the change and the evolution of the treatment in the years to come is going to be quite interesting to watch. And
Yeah,
I'm sure
I
we'll
hope
talk
so.
about this again.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you all very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And we'll have the links to the report below as well. Thanks and see you next time.